When you ghost a narcissist, the shocking emotional fallout. Have you ever thought about what really goes on in a narcissist's mind when you choose to go silent? Today, we're peeling back the layers on this intriguing topic. Whether you've had enough of their toxic antics and decided to leave, or you're simply pulling back to reclaim your peace, you might be wondering, what are they thinking? Why do they act the way they do? And is their silence something you should be worried about? We're diving deep into the emotional whirlwind a narcissist experiences when you disappear from their life. Trust me, they won't just sit quietly. They'll definitely try to pull you back in. But how exactly do they do this? Join me as we unpack the psychology behind their reactions and manipulation tactics. Let's get started. The first aspect to understand is the sense of losing control. For someone like a narcissist, who is fundamentally focused on exerting dominance and anticipating outcomes, this loss is particularly devastating. It's an understatement to say they won't react well. In fact, this experience will deeply unsettle them. While many of you are not attempting to manipulate them, naturally, you're not. Your departure stems from having reached your limit. A narcissist will typically reject this reality. If you observe them closely, you'll notice that their entire existence revolves around maintaining control. This drive originates from early life experiences, deeply rooted in fears of rejection and abandonment, two primary triggers that shape a narcissist's behavior. When a narcissist finds themselves unable to exercise control, it becomes a critical issue for them. They desire to dictate the narrative, manage circumstances, and regulate others' actions. In moments when they are deprived of this control, they often revert to maladaptive behaviors. They might not visibly display these feelings, but the truth is they are overwhelmed by fear. Fear of being rejected and fear of being abandoned. Their underlying emotional wounds bubble to the surface, and they lack the tools to manage them effectively. This exposure leaves them vulnerable. They become emotionally unprotected. This is precisely why narcissists avoid being open or transparent with others. They struggle to articulate their feelings, not out of awareness, but due to a refusal to confront their emotions. When control slips away, it's fundamentally about power dynamics. They perceive every interaction as a contest for dominance, and losing power within the relationship is particularly unsettling for them. If they seem to be thriving, this is precisely what they desire. Their success hinges on this dynamic. With your departure, they experience a significant loss. Without you, their sense of power and confidence diminishes. However, this state of affairs is merely temporary. They won't remain in this vulnerable position indefinitely. In the absence of control, a narcissist grapples with feelings of insignificance, abandonment, and helplessness, emotions tied to deep-rooted wounds they struggle to confront. Such situations force them to revisit their troubled childhoods, the very past they attempt to conceal. They come to understand that they can no longer exert influence over you, which is vital for them because their self-worth heavily depends on how you perceive and interact with them. They need your validation and efforts. Without that input, they cannot maintain their inflated sense of self. This reality hits hard. As I mentioned before, their existence revolves around control. When they cannot keep you under their influence, they face a profound loss of validation. This realization triggers intense feelings of rejection and humiliation, leading to explosive anger. They become furious because they struggle to regulate their emotions. This anger manifests as rage, pushing them into a state of fear characterized by overt aggression. If you re-establish communication after distancing yourself, expect them to direct blame at you, insisting that the issues are entirely your fault. They will go to great lengths to make you feel responsible. It's essential to recognize this as manipulation, a tactic to draw you back into their web. Some of you might feel a twinge of pity for them, thinking, maybe I overreacted, or was I too harsh? The reality is that you've reached your breaking point. You recognize that you could no longer endure the situation, leading to your decision to leave. It's essential to recognize that feelings of guilt and sympathy are exactly where a narcissist will try to manipulate you. They're banking on you feeling pity, hoping you'll view them as the one who's been wronged, drawing you back in. This is often their first move, as it's all part of their hoovering strategy, an attempt to reel you back in for their own validation. You might receive unexpected messages, often out of nowhere. These messages could sound like, "Hey, I miss you," or "We had something special. You'll never find someone like me." These words are crafted to provoke emotions, make you nostalgic, or stir up old feelings so that you might consider reopening the door for them. But it's critical to see this as sheer manipulation. Do they genuinely mean these words? No, not in the way they might want you to think. If they truly missed you or regretted the outcome, why didn't they put in the effort to prevent things from reaching this point? Yes, everyone makes mistakes, and relationships have rough patches, but when someone continually repeats harmful behaviors, these aren't mere mistakes. When these declarations of, "I miss us," "We were so good together," and "Can't you see we had something real?" start rolling in, consider what's actually behind them. Why didn't they stop their destructive actions in the first place? They haven't shown any commitment to change or reflect on their behavior patterns, nor any real desire to understand their impact on others. This realization is vital. All these gestures serve only to benefit them. Their aim is to break down your defenses and lure you back. But those who've returned often find that any initial kindness quickly fades, and they're left facing the same painful cycle, sometimes even with added punishment as payback for having left. Curiously, narcissists tend to react by attempting to pull you back into their orbit in these situations. Some may choose to employ the silent treatment as a tactic. This serves as both punishment and a means of manipulation. By cutting off all forms of communication, they hope to instill a sense of unease in you due to their absence. They reverse the situation, aiming to provoke feelings of distress in you because you're left feeling neglected, unvalued, or invisible. Their goal is to make you feel insignificant, essentially prompting you to seek their attention once more. Can you see how this is all a game? If you've chosen to distance yourself from them, understand that their actions are not about genuinely resolving issues. It's purely about psychological manipulation. However, there's a more sinister aspect to consider. If they feel they can't regain influence over you, they might resort to character assassination. This involves tarnishing your reputation and influencing how others perceive you. Such actions stem from a desire for revenge. They're seeking to retaliate against you. The realization that you've cut ties and are unresponsive to their attempts at hoovering or the silent treatment drives them to take this next step. Their intent is to drag your name through the mud, fostering negativity about you among others. They thrive on this. Seeing others judge you boosts their sense of superiority and control in the situation. Beneath the surface of their reactions, amidst the anger, lies a deep-seated fear. Ultimately, they cannot tolerate the feeling of being abandoned and rejected by you. Recall that at the outset of this discussion, I mentioned the core wounds that drive a narcissist's behavior. These wounds are the foundation of all their actions and reactions. Absolutely, this is how they react. Should you feel intimidated by them? I want to emphasize that fear shouldn't be your response to a narcissist. Rather, it's crucial to understand their tactics. This is how they exert control. When you give them space to reveal their true nature, you'll start to recognize their patterns and grasp what lies beneath the surface. This marks a stage of empowerment. During this phase, their actions no longer affect you on a personal level. You begin to realize that their behavior stems from their own issues, not anything you've done. The further you distance yourself, the more beneficial it becomes for your healing process. Remember, it's perfectly fine to step away. You have the right to disengage from the narcissist. This is essential for your mental and emotional health. They may interpret this as you being unfeeling or shutting them out, but ultimately, this is about prioritizing your well-being. You are your top priority. I hope this has clarified things for you. Thank you for joining me today, and take good care of yourselves. I look forward to seeing you again soon.